just very briefly, we'll cover what are server templates for those of you who haven't used it. And then for those of you who already know what they are, do you know what base server templates are? Do you know how to really figure out what's in the library, in our marketplace? You know, best practices for recording your shell scripting and write scripts. How to clean up after yourself. What is the point of decommission? What can you do when you're decommissioning? How to be independent. This will talk about trying to minimize external dependencies so you can guarantee that your servers will always come up. And finally, I hope to give you how to live a fulfilling cloud life. But you guys can be the judge of that. Make sure you fill out the feedback forms before you leave this room. But the first stop is server templates. So I want to make a pretty clear distinction between virtual machine images and server templates. Virtual machine images is a great technological evolution. It's allowed a lot of companies to really be more flexible internally in terms of delivering machines just on the fly when they need to developers and even used in production. But they are problematic in a couple different ways. They are chiseled in stone. They're extremely painful to change and to manage. And they're very pre-cloud. But the cloud has to make use of them to at least give you the operating system and the machine that's running. So where we like to live is here at the server template level, where it is more like a playlist, where you can move things around, you can move scripts around. You can decide, oh, I want that song on my playlist. Ooh, that song doesn't sound so bad. And then at this point, you're living above the image. You're also living above the cloud. You're kind of creating blueprints that you can move around clouds and regions. And then we take care of the cloud details for you. So in the end, what you're doing is you're actually coding your infrastructure. You're using the cloud as pieces of code or objects that you can pull into your code. And you're coding your infrastructure in such a way that you can very easily change around how the server should look. And then if you need more of them, you photocopy them. If you need to tweak one thing, you just go in and tweak that one thing. And then all of a sudden, you're good to go. When you get pretty advanced, some people blur these lines a little bit. So if they want the machines to spin up super fast, they might make that one application already installed into the image. But for the most part, we like to keep everything provisioning at a pretty high level. So that's kind of just a very high level difference of server templates. You're going to see a lot more of them as I actually go into them. So the first thing I want to point out is whenever you start server template development, or whenever you want to create your own, you actually shouldn't start by creating a blank template. We have a few base server templates. You can go out and find hundreds of templates that are already there for you. So you search for base server template. We have some for Windows. We have some for Linux. You're seeing some that are produced by Japan and some that are internal, which are shared with me, so that you won't see those. But if you're starting with Windows or if you're starting with Linux, you want to start off of base server template. And what's in there? Well, we already have monitoring all set up. We set the time zone. We can pull the logs off the machine remotely in case the machine dies. You'll have the logs. We fixed some of the mail issues. So it's basically just a place where you can get started. Underneath that, there are images that we've created which go across clouds. So you can see here across all different regions, and we'll even have some templates that go across clouds, and you'll see that shortly. And we also have it working across both CentOS and Ubuntu for this case. So you can spin up this base template on either one of those operating systems in any of these regions, and it's going to look the same everywhere you come up. So you're kind of getting just it's like a little SDK starting point where you're filling in the main method, and you start taking your scripts and you put in there in terms of how you configure your templates, and then you're off to the races, and we take care of the rest for you. So one little tip, which I'll point out when I'm going through the template, is since the monitoring is already in there, we make it really easy for you to just monitor the processes that you're adding. Let's say you're installing MySQL or Apache. You just type in MySQL space HTTPD into the input for this template, and we'll automatically start pulling a lot of monitoring data for those packages. So it's super easy for you to add monitoring for your application. So Don't reinvent the wheel. We have hundreds of templates already that we've built, that our partners have built, that our customers have built and published. So I would encourage you to use the marketplace, find what you need, browse the examples, and then I'm going to actually walk through using diff right now to sort of see how you can compare and see how templates might be different. And we have partners that have put a lot of work into their templates, like Gluster or Zeus, and these are production-maintained templates that people are using in production environments. So if you're using one of those technologies, then you have something that's there out of the box. Record every step you take. So now you spin up a machine that's running. That's based off of whatever template you're working off of, and then you start to actually configure the instance by hand, and you copy and paste the commands that you're using over into a new write script that you can add to the template. So you basically keep working until you get successful commands, or maybe you change the configuration file successfully, and then you copy those into write scripts, and then for the information that you want to be variable, we turn those into environment variables, and then we extract those out into inputs. So hopefully I haven't lost anybody too far. I said this would be kind of mixed. And then finally, you attach any files that you need to put down on the instance, or compilations as archives. What do I mean by that? So one thing that we see a lot is people compile stuff on the fly when they're starting machines, and it takes a long time to do that. Well, one thing that you can do is you can compile it, put it into a tar file, and then attach it. And then it's super fast to just download it and unpack it. And it's also pretty guaranteed that the software is exactly the way it's supposed to be. You can even configure it a little bit after it's compiled if you want to. And then tar it up, attach it to the template, and that way whenever it comes down, it'll be in exactly the same place that you want it, be configured how you want it, and it's good to go. So that's what I mean by record every step you take into the templates. You can think of it like a giant big record button. And then the idea is that whenever you want to spin up one of these servers again, you do just press the play button, and it plays back everything that you've recorded. So decommission is a not very often used thing in the server templates, but we run these scripts when you terminate or shut down an instance. So this is where you can do a lot of things like backup files, take snapshots of EBS images, volumes that you have running, detach them, get rid of them, disconnect from load balancers, back up your databases, and it's just a really nice way to clean up what you've done, and if anyone terminates an instance, you just take a snapshot and you know that you can always bring it back to the place that it was before. So you want to, I think in the very beginning of the agenda I said you want to minimize external dependencies. So if you're checking out from SVN somewhere else, well, if that server goes down, your server's not going to boot. Or if you're checking off of GitHub or something like that, and GitHub goes down, which it has, then your server won't boot. So we try to recommend bring as much as you can into the template as attachments, or be able to pull from multiple locations or multiple mirrors if you're pulling stuff from elsewhere, so you can make sure that your template, the external dependencies or their effect is minimized. Another key thing to point out. So this is a pretty complicated concept, but I think we've made it pretty easy once you really understand it. So we've started a new thing called a compatibility release. And what we do, besides sweat and cry and pour a lot over all this stuff and test it, is we take a lot of our main templates and a lot of our main scripts, and we test them all together on the same images, and we make sure that they work. So if you're moving a script between one template to another one, as long as maybe you're using that base server template, which is in the compatibility release, it's going to work because we've tested it. So what does that mean? If you're using a base server template, which is marked 11H1, if you go out and look at our library, you'll see a bunch of other templates that say 11H1 at the end of the name. You'll also see a bunch of write scripts. These are all write scripts with 11H1 at the end of the name. So if you're working off that base template, you can say, oh, well, I need a script that does this. Well, if you put this script on your base template, we guarantee that it works because we've tested it. So it's pretty complex. We'd have to go into the fact that if you're using different images with different software repositories, that's why the scripts might not work. But we've tested these all together with the same images and the same software repositories to make sure that they work. So if you're starting to build your own templates, it's best to work within a compatibility release, and you can read more about that on our support site and how to do that. Again, that make sure that we're testing on common base images, and any software repository that we're pulling from, we mirror, and we make sure that it's pulling it from the specific date when the template was created. So we also keep a copy every single day of all the software mirrors for like CentOS and Ubuntu. And so we can guarantee that it's going to come up exactly the way that you set it. So in closing, I just want to kind of point out one of the key values of server templates and configuration within RightScale. And one of the key things that our customers really appreciate is that they don't have to do the same thing twice. We don't want you to type the same command twice. Let us do it for you. In fact, we have some customers that have become very draconian, and you're just simply not allowed to work on the machine. You have to work within scripts, because then what happens is it's all recorded. All the best practices are recorded, and anyone else can spin it up. So I'll give you a story. I had a template that I created for our internal business intelligence team, which spun up simply a connector for a SaaS ETL tool that we use. And so it's a secure connector which allows them to get in behind our firewall and get to some of our databases. And I did the same thing where I figured out how to set it up. I tarred up the directory that it got installed in. I put it all in the script. I made sure it worked. I made sure I could relaunch this thing over and over again, and then it was good. And then I was in Joshua Tree camping with my family, and unbeknownst to me, the thing goes down. I get back in the office the next weekend. I'm like, it's only running for one day? Did something happen here? Oh yeah, it just crashed over the weekend or something like that, but it was okay. Mason went in and pressed play and it just worked. And Mason had never seen a template before. He doesn't even know how to install it or anything. He just went in there, oh, this thing's dead, pressed play, came back up, and it was running. So this is what we mean by don't type the same command twice. Encapsulate it in a blueprint and best practices, and that way you can make it so you can scale within your organization. You can make photocopies of these servers. You can put them in our server arrays so they scale out automatically, and that's the value of the configuration that we bring. So again, start from a base, record what you're doing, of course test what you've done, and finally I really, really encourage you to use the marketplace, learn from others. I've been able to use a lot off of the stuff that's in our library, and it's much easier to start there than to start from scratch.